What up, folks? MikeyG here and Mystik. Mystik, welcome to the show. I believe it or not, I have had a handful of females on this show. It is not just all dudes, and I am excited, not just because you're a female, but I'm really excited about our conversation because you have a really cool background. Probably, as you can imagine, a little bit different than most like tech bros that I get on this show. So I'm excited to have the conversation. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Mystik?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful sunny day in California. I don't have much to complain about. Life's pretty good. So yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to diving into all things myself and Quack.
I'm so excited too. And I agree with you on this sentiment that I lived in the Bay Area. I think I might have told you. I've been up to like Humboldt County, that whole area. Northern California is just a majestic place. It's the only place that I have been able to see the beach, a sand dune, and the redwoods, and a wild elk on the beach, all within like my visual radius, right? And I was like, shit, this is what Chronicles of Narnia was based off of. Like this is where fantasy movies come from. This shit actually exists in real life. Magical place. But I will say, I did not know how much I freaking love the beach. And San Diego, it's my place. I thought I was really going to miss Northern California, but San Diego is my place. I did not realize how much I love the beach. But I am really excited to have you here. Before we get into it, I just actually podcasted yesterday, and Star-Lordy, CEO of Oniforce, and he has an AI agentic, I guess it's an extension of Oniforce in a world, Ava Online. I don't know if it's Eva or Ava. I keep on screwing it up. But we had a fabulous conversation. Like, this guy is from similar worlds to me, and we're working on things. We already dubbed the builders cabal, but it's a good cabal. We're gonna find people that actually been building sustainably in the space that actually are mission driven. Mystik, I don't know. Might be filling out an application for the Builders Cabal. I just don't know who's going to be. And so we've got this brainchild of an idea. We're going to start working, hopefully, on some content together. But I got to get a follow-up call with him. I have some really cool other projects coming on. A company called like Happily. They're on the abstract chain. They're trying to raise awareness for mental health. Mental health is near and dear to my heart. I'm really trying lately to focus people like Mystik that are really trying to make an impact. I think this space is far too riddled with a quick flip, people trying to make money, all of the bullshit that I've seen for so long. And I've really, over the last, I'd say, couple months, have doubled down on making sure missions exist more than any time before, but then also really figuring out how to integrate Web 2 and Web 3. Maybe we can talk about that too, because I'm sure you have some thoughts on that, because it has to happen. But that's enough about me. The rest of it's about you, Mystik. You already got a bunch of people watching. You obviously know how to build community. There's obviously people out there that care about what you're building, because trust me, I bring nobody to the platform. It's always my guests that bring all of the fun and joy to the platform. So we're going to get into nice formal introduction. We always like to go. So honors pre-med, turn holistic healer, farmer, and minimalist. I say that I want to do these things, but I don't have the courage to do these things. So I can't wait to talk about that. Women's Art Collective founder, creating healing and educational spaces with marketplaces and elixir lounges and large events. Cannot wait to talk about that. And then what our title is, really focusing on sustainability and community. But here's the most exciting part. She has raised a raven back to health. And I don't know the story. Give us a little bit of the story about how the whole raven situation happened, because that's the fun fact that most people don't know about Mystik.
definitely a unique experience too. So I had moved off the grid and was, no cell service. Like we had to drive 20 minutes to use the phone. We had enough power for like one light bulb, propane fridge, like super um, kind of little cabin. And we had two ravens all out of nest. They were onto the driveway. We were like, okay, I guess maybe this is their process. Let's watch them, and quickly after like 2 days, we were like, they're not moving, I think there's more to this. One of them was badly injured and ended up passing pretty quick, but the other one, dude, I mean, they're huge. They're like
Right.
this big, blue eyes, can't see. You have to like make noises for them to open their mouth. We're like, what do we do with it? We don't have the internet. Like, I have no idea how to handle a raven. And and so we ended up raising it. We fed it like real high quality cat food, like wet cat food, and had to throw it back and forth to each other to like get it to learn how to fly. And
That's
it's just they're so
insane.
smart. Like
Right.
every 2 weeks was like another year in childhood. And all of a sudden you have this teenager that's like running around, taking things, anything shiny, bringing you stuff from the neighbors. You're like, oh my gosh, what is this key? Like, maybe we should give this back. And eventually it was after about 7 months of having him, it was time for him to go and be a bird again. And so he went out and he was real nervous at first. You could see like on the A-frame roof, he'd like go back and forth with these other ravens trying to figure out, because he thought he was a person,
Oh,
he didn't
yeah.
know. He sounded different. So that's how we
Yeah.
could tell that it was him, because he sounded different. And
Interesting.
then the next year he had a baby, or a lady, and then the next year he had a baby. And so it was just really cool to watch him from,
Does
wounded on
he
the road.
come back?
We actually had moved and he would come back, but he would never come back to us. It was kind of like he probably had made, couldn't come back to the humans now that he was a raven again.
Interesting. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
story. And I think that's a perfect segue into the world famous Mikey G podcast question. Mystik, how did you get to the seat you're sitting in today? Please give me chapter 1, 2, and 3. To reiterate for the audience who's never heard this podcast before, chapter 1 is your childhood. And what I'm interested in, by the way, you don't have to mute anymore because I don't hear the feedback. Not sure what happened. So we're good to go. Don't worry about muting.
Cool.
I have no clue what happened. It was happening before. Now it's gone. If anybody does hear feedback, other than our chill ass lo-fi vibes going on in the background, please make a comment. I already see a couple comments there, but let us know if you hear any feedback or reverb. But to reiterate for the audience, chapter 1 is Mystik's childhood. Why this matters. It's a fundamental part of every human's life. It helps set the mindset, motivations, all of the things that we're interested in. And here, remember, Mystik, prompting questions, vivid memories, parents or parental figures, mantras, work hard, be kind, whatever it may be. Were you a tinkerer? Did you play sports? Were you farming? Were you shoveling at the age of 4? I don't know. I can't wait to hear about it. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is schooling. We talked about pre-med. Then you obviously made some decisions. You started moving off the grid. You made some drastic life changes. Let's talk about that. What I'm here, though, remember, here I'm really interested in your failures, because I think failures are the most critical things that humans do, because you learn from them. And those failures help you learn and grow. So when we do talk about the context of this part of your life, that's what I'm interested in. And then chapter 3, Web3. Really interested in this because, like I said, there's a juxtaposition between sustainability, life, and then what we deal with in Web3, which is a lot of tech bros and just tech in general, right? You're talking about going off grid, and now we're in tech, in a connected, tech-ridden Web3 environment. So this is going to be a fascinating conversation. So with that being said, chapter 1, anywhere you want to start with childhood, think of those prompting questions. Cannot wait to hear it.
Okay. So I was the only child. I'm from Oklahoma originally, from the city, but I had family that lived rurally. Definitely not farmer. We were city folk. grew up playing a lot of video games, a lot of Call of Duty, a lot of Star Wars Lego. Uh, I was maybe I said only child, but I found a lot of community in soccer. I played soccer
Mm,
from 3 to 18 and
right.
competitively from 10 to 18, and a lot of my teammates went on to play, pretty big schools. But at the time, there wasn't really anything for women in soccer. Now there's a
Right.
lot more happening.
Yeah.
And so maybe I would have made different choices, but I chose to go to school. At the time was to do pre-veterinarian. I had thought that I wanted to help
Oh, oh,
animals my whole life.
hold on. I gotta cut. Where are you going? Pre-veterinarian. We just broke, we breezed through way too quick. So you already gave me, believe it or not, you already gave me enough. Um, you already said some interesting things. So you're living a farming life and you come from Call of Duty, video games, living in the city. Looking back there, that still obviously had some impact on you. So let's go through video games first. Why video games? What did you love about video games? Looking back, was there something that attracted you to it? Were there even things that you learned from being a gamer? Because one of the interesting things to me is fascinating, and it kind of makes sense to me. 99% of the founders in Web3 or tech founders in general play video games. So talk to me a little bit about video games.
I think as a being an only child and playing soccer is that like in real life kind of communal aspect, that video games is a way for me to come home and still have friends and get that
Mm,
sense of community and be able to play with my friends. It was definitely interesting being a young girl in that world, especially in the Call of Duty world.
yeah.
That was wild.
Do you
But
think
yeah.
that almost even prepped you for a little bit of Web3 crypto bro stuff? Because you had to
Maybe.
deal with that. And let's click down on that. How do you deal with it? Now, I know at the time you're young, right? So you're not thinking about it. But like reflecting back, are there tactics or things that you have learned, advice to other women trying to get through this crazy ass toxic bro culture world that you've kind of built as a skill set or an awareness? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think being young, I didn't understand a lot of the things that they were probably saying to
Of
me.
course. Yeah.
But then
But
as I
looking
got
back
older,
now, knowing what you
you
know.
know, yeah, I think that just kind of letting things roll off, like
Yeah.
they don't know who I am. They don't know anything about me. They can make up whatever they like, but just not letting it affect me or get to me really. And then also, I think that because I was a jock, I spent a lot of time hanging out with men and, boys in general.
Ooh.
Uh, Girls, like guys would like punch each other and then move on, and like girls would like try to just destroy everybody's life. And it was just a little bit too much. And so I spent a lot of time hanging out with boys, which also probably helped me handle the in real life aspect.
Mhm. Mhm. And I think you make a really good point there is like, as weird as it sounds, it's almost like I use this analogy like my shoulder, right? My shoulder's messed up because I played a lot of sports too. I played tennis. And I played tennis my freshman year at Penn State actually. And so I played at a high level at some points and my shoulder is just destroyed. But to get my shoulder better, I have to move it, right? And so, how do you deal with that toxic culture? Well, not totally avoid it, uh, deal with it like you did, right? And you got used to it and you surrounded yourself with some people to understand. Because here's the fundamental thing. Now, this is a philosophical question, right? Do you believe that everybody's good? And I think I do. And I think it's figuring out how to deal with different people. What are your thoughts on just these concepts in general?
I would say that people that I like to believe, this might be a little hopium, But I do like to believe that everybody is born good, although I do recognize that there is duality in the world, and so there might be some room for that to not be true. But I think that a lot of environmental and, you know, ways people were raised, what they were exposed to, what our society pushes and breeds, kind of influences people to make different choices. Like if you took money and power and greed out of the situation, do I think that people would innately do bad things to each other? I'm not sure, because usually people are after some of those types of things.
A
And that's a
hun-
little bit of our society's fault, you know?
100%. And so speaking of back to the childhood, you mentioned sports, and I'm hearing the feedback now again. Sorry. So you mentioned sports. That sports has a large impact on people. And so I heard you say community, but talk to me about that evolution and looking back, and how do you think that helped you as you matured and progressed through life? Because I know it has a profound impact on people in different ways. I'd love to hear your experience.
For sure. I recently have picked up, well, a couple of years ago, picked up pickleball.
It's
And
amazing.
yeah, and my partner and I, he comes from a baseball background, which is a fairly, it's a team sport, but it's also very based on the individual. And
Hmm.
he gets singled out a little bit more. And soccer is absolutely not. Like, somebody messes up, you have to give them, you can't just not give them the ball again. You know, if you mess up, you can't just quit. Like, you have to try to keep going. And so we notice it in our ways that we handle pickleball, of how much I learned from soccer and learned how to deal with people being off on their game for a certain day or making a mistake, or, you know, that you have to just like let it go on the fly and keep
Yeah.
moving forward, or you're just going to dig yourself deeper and deeper and it's just not productive or successful. And so soccer definitely has taught me a ton in my
I
life.
love, and so this is one of the thoughts that come to my mind, and I'm interested in your train of thought, if you agree or you want to expand on it or you have a different opinion. But I think a lot of the things that we get frustrated or perceived to, like you said, if somebody's having a bad day, most people would get frustrated and mad at that person. But ultimately, it's really a reflection of your thoughts, right? And how you're dealing with that. And in addition, you don't know what's going on with that person. But what I'm getting at is, how important is self-reflection and understanding your narrative to yourself as you've gotten older, progressed, and kind of matured? Is this something you think about a lot, or is this something you don't think about at all?
Yeah, I'm definitely the person that says something and then 10 minutes later has thought about it 25 times of how I said it and what I said and how it came off or how it maybe affected somebody. So I definitely do a lot of self-reflection. I think also probably being an only child and playing sports played a kind of a factor into that, where, you know, you think about where your mistake came from, or there, when you're an only child, there's no one else to blame, right? It's you, for whatever happened. And so you have to sit with yourself and think about that a little bit more often. Um, so I definitely would say that self-reflection is big in my evolution. Also, when moving through traumas from childhood, or, you know, throughout my years, um, self-reflection without attachment, you know, not getting bound to what happened, recognizing that those things did make me who I am, and that that's beautiful, and I don't have to play that victim part. You know, I can reflect on it and learn from it and see it, kind of flip it around of like, okay, great, well, that was really terrible, but it opened this other door. It made me do this, made this choice happen, and now I'm here because of it.
Ooh, you've touched on something fascinating. I love this topic. So let's talk about that, right? Which is this whole, and again, not into the details of your trauma. We all experience trauma, but this self-reflection solution to dealing with it. How did you even start coming about that? Because a lot of people don't even get to that step. And I had to go through it, was just a mental complete collapse for me to start understanding some of this. So I'm interested in your journey and how you started exploring this whole self-reflection and that mindset that you just told me. This is a beautiful mindset.
Yeah, there's two things. One of which is pretty heavy, but I'll share it because I'm okay with it. But for those listening, I was 16 and my dad took his life. He had been a doctor. He had gotten into a car wreck when I was a baby and hit his head and became schizophrenic from a change in brain chemistry. And he would go in and out of my life doing stuff. And, then we had started to get really close, and I had pulled away and I had said some not so nice things, and then he killed himself. And so at a young age, I felt nobody was going to tell me then that I didn't play a part in that happening. And so I reflected a lot on how my actions could affect others, and even, like not knowing, not recognizing where he was. I actually was in psychology class during that time, which was really fascinating because we talked a lot about schizophrenia and a lot of these things that I didn't understand at the time. And so it taught me to be really cautious with people because I don't understand where they're going, where they're coming from, what they're going through. And then again, when I was 21, I moved to Hawaii, and I was like real excited to do all this stuff. And right before, like 4 days before I moved, I was in a like acrobatic type accident, acro yoga. I fell off somebody's shoulders onto hardwood, and on my head, and they slipped and they broke like my face, and they crushed my sternum pretty good, and I had some pretty gnarly brain trauma. And so I got there and was, maybe a little bit suicidal at the time, like feeling like I was young, but I couldn't do all these things. I just moved to this beautiful tropical place, and I found structural alignment therapy, which I actually have since last year become a practitioner of this method. And it is a lot of static positions. And so I spent like 3 to 5 hours a day for 6 months in a lot of static positions doing therapy and processing using EMDR type mechanisms, where I could feel these tensions in my body in different areas. And I would get flashbacks of like somebody telling me something about my hips, or somebody telling me something and it changing the way I held myself or that I walked, or, and realizing, just kind of having that space to self-reflect, I think was really, and taking that static time where we didn't have TV, we didn't have a ton of, again, it was somewhat off grid. So it wasn't like I watched TV or listened to shows. I either read, which was a little bit uncomfortable because I'd be in like weird positions and, trying to read. So I laid in meditation for a long time.
That is amazing insight. And again, appreciate you being so vulnerable. It means so much to me that you would even think about saying that to me and sharing that. I am really interested in, because I'm a firm believer that I didn't start healing myself until I did this deep self-reflection and understanding that it was me, right? Not anybody else. And to your point of schizophrenia and mental illness, that's a whole nother thing too. And I couldn't imagine being in your position, because and even my wife, I talk to my wife about this all the time, like her being by my side, and fortunately her staying with me and being her. She's like my angel, guardian angel on earth. But it is so hard to be that other person, to not understand, because your brain is just not functioning right? You are sick. You are actually sick in the brain. Your chemicals are not firing right. And it's just something you can't handle. And until you understand that and feel that, it's very hard to relate. But you being able to go to that self-reflection and start understanding these types of things is beautiful. someone, I told you we were going to impact lives today. You already have no doubt in my mind by sharing this stuff. And this is just the beautiful thing that we do. For someone that is interested in this topic, but terrified to start the self-reflection journey, what would your advice be?
Walk into the flames. As simple as it is, you know.
Well, this
Don't be
person's
afraid.
scared when you're telling them to walk into the flames. Maybe not that, but well, you do. But you do. You do.
Be brave. You know, the same statement, right? Be brave. Also, reading. You know, tapping into different books. The EMDR therapy was really helpful for me because it's a lot of a reprocessing of emotion. So you would think about a time that you felt that emotion, not the situation that you're in, but that core emotion, right? And think
Right.
about that time, and you would reflect as far back as the first time you could remember that emotion happening, and then you would do different, you know, maybe a waterfall or windshield wipers or some way of removing that attachment to that emotion, and also knowing that even though people haven't been through your same situation that anybody has, you know,
Right.
that core emotion that you feel is an emotion that everyone has most likely felt in their life. And some people maybe are more privileged or more you know, haven't experienced some of those darker emotions, but emotion at its core is something that the human experiences. Whether or
Yes.
not, like I said, it's different for what actually caused that emotion, that
Uh-huh.
root cause is
Yeah.
you're not alone, you know.
That was beautiful. And I think where you ended off is something that I say a lot, and I think is, and I say this statement all the time: we all bleed red blood, right? There's actually no difference in how our bodies function, but we make it so complicated in this world when it's really not. And mainly too on an emotional level, we all feel anxiety and depression and happiness and sadness and all of these amazing things that are a blessing for us and a gift for us to feel. And you just need to understand that you're no different than anybody else, even though you're told constantly, time and time again, you're not, but everybody feels these same things. And I think that is just a beautiful thought in itself. And it's just, why can't people understand this? I guess I know, because we make life confusing due to tons of different things. But I think between that, I think you said 3 things to recap that I think are really, really good advice. One, I love how you just went guns a-blazing. You went with the hardcore truth, which is at some point you just got to walk into the flames. And a lot of the flames for me, and I'm going to be interested in your intake on this. Well, let's recap first. Walk into the flames. I think reading's fantastic suggestion too. Just reading up on things that you're interested first to even get a little deeper understanding. Great advice. And then 3, we all feel the same shit. You are no different than anybody else. I don't care whatever anyone else tells you. We all feel the same stuff. Those are 3 great things of advice. Question to you though, and I lost my thought. It was such a good question. I drank a lot of alcohol in my 30s. Sometimes I tend to just like completely blank it out. My thought, it was around self-reflection.
Going into the flames.
Going
How the flames maybe aren't.
Going into the flames. This is what I was gonna say. So going into the flames, in my experience, and I would love for you to share any advice. But going into the flames from my experience was me understanding that, oh crap, for me to get better, I need to fix myself, not anybody else, not the world, not everything I'm blaming everything on. That was like my beginning of my, like, I'm in the flames and I got to figure this out. And obviously there's a bunch of PTSD stuff that I went through that were just like hard thoughts to re-envision. For you, the beginning of going through the flames and I think more not talking about the flames, but the beginning of where you felt that self-healing really started. What was that for you?
I feel like jumping into the unknown, is similar to walking into the flames.
Yeah.
And recognizing that sometimes when you jump, hypothetically, or figuratively speaking, when you jump off that cliff into something you can't see, right? I imagine it as like you're at the top of a mountain, all you see is clouds, and you jump. But there might be pillows right there, or the most magical experience of your life. And you don't see it from the start, but just taking that leap of faith with yourself, and that's kind of like what has progressed me along my path of like leaving this white coat science. I had some pretty prestigious background. I had worked with Monsanto. I didn't realize it at the time, but I did. And then I, jumped in. I just packed my car. I moved to California. I'd never done anything like that before, and I just dove into everything that I was like, okay, cool. I want to live a more holistic life. Like, let's do it. Let's go off grid. Let's try these things. Like, is it scary, being away from the idea of medical, what if something happens, or all these weird fears that come into your mind? It's really that you don't know what it is. And so preventing yourself from experiencing that is just detrimental to your growth and in reality or in the truth, So diving in and not being afraid, I think is the biggest.
And you said what's really fascinating and interesting, by the way, beautiful conversation already. Like, you're just crushing it. You're having you're just killing it. Already sending so much awesome information out. I knew this was going to be a great convo. But here's another way you hear this tons and tons of time. You got to take risk as an entrepreneur. Same difference, right? You're going to have to do something you're not comfortable with. And being comfortable, as cliche as it sounds, it's just another way to get there. And all of these practices, I think, again, what's cool about this is what we're talking about practices of different ways to get there, right? From the therapies that you were talking about and the self-refreshing, staying still. But at the crux of what we're talking about is still doing the same thing, which is taking chance, taking risk, getting comfortable with the unknown, jumping into the flames. There's just so many ways to get there and do that. And finding, and this is what I always say, and this is kind of my frustration with a lot of content creation and even education out there, is there is always so many people that are going to tell you, if you do X, Y will happen. And that's just not the case. Like, life is so gray. Yes, it's great that you can share your practice, but it might not work for everybody. But at the end of the day, we are talking about these fundamental principles. So thank you so much for sharing all of this. This is fantastic. And I think this is a natural segue, right? Is I want to make sure that we're kind of staying on the different sections. I'm actually use this time to break. We got tons of people watching. Please retweet that bad boy, because people need to understand Mystik's story. Beautiful soul human being. And we're about to get into some really cool parts, which is this next evolution of your life. You've already shared a ton of your childhood, and I really appreciate it. Some intimate moments as well. So let's talk about this shift, which is you get into the white coat world, and then you have this realization that you're just going to pack it all in and move across the country. So talk to me about that. What was going through your mind? Was there like a clarity, an aha moment? And take me through this journey. Still muted. It's all right.
There we go. I don't know why my lighting changed either. But I had been really sick as a kid. I was on a breathing machine at a young age. I had shots twice a week till I was 16.
Wow.
And I finally went to like some more specialist doctors. Nobody could tell me what was wrong. I didn't pass or fail the tests. And I had started to I got into school in college, and had started to find some other, actually a woman from San Diego had tipped me off to a cookbook that talked about traditional ways of eating, and how
Mm.
what we knew and what we were being taught about vitamins and about the way the body works just wasn't totally accurate. And so that kind of opened me up, and I started to juice and get into herbalism and really detox my body, and stop eating, switch to organic and try to lessen processed foods. And then I had that in Oklahoma, you can imagine, especially then. Now it's a
Oh
little bit
yeah.
more hip. We got like Whole Foods and stuff,
Right.
but it was, I kind of turned into a very serious black sheep very quickly.
Right.
And then I went to this internship in St. Louis with Monsanto. And somehow I was like, this kid from a state school, and all these people were from Cornell and these big
Yeah.
prestigious colleges. And I was the only one that got picked to do genetic modification. And I was the only one that probably didn't want to do that. And I had signed a contract before I realized all the things that were happening. And so I did genetically modified plants. And a week after that internship ended, I went to visit Humboldt, and I just fell in love with the trees and the ocean and the different way of life. It's like island time or Humboldt time. It's
Yeah.
just slow, and people are open, and there's all these different modes of healing. And I quickly realized I didn't need to go. I also went back to school, and when I came, after that summer internship, and took physiology, and they were teaching me pharmacology, and I was like, guys, this is not the right class. And my nutrition class was about margarine, and I was just like, this is the only nutrition class I'm going to take in pre-med.
Right.
Like, and I realized that they're doctors of pathology. They understand disease, but they don't necessarily understand health. And so then I had realized that maybe I wanted to be a naturopath, right? And so I was doing yoga and meditation and cleansing my body. And I'd been in a relationship with someone for 5 years from in high school, and I had just changed a lot, and he had not. And I realized through a lot of tears and waking up crying and being pretty depressed, I finally had like you said, an aha moment of like, I woke up and was like, okay, this is what I need to do. Like, I'm going to California,
Wow.
and it's time to change. And so I left like my little picture perfect life, as my mom would have said, and
Hmm.
I moved and dreaded my hair and moved into the forest and started studying herbalism. I got an awesome internship, so I got to like practice underneath a practitioner, and I got double certified, and I studied all these other types of healing, and just quickly realized that I didn't need to go to naturopathic school to help people heal. And so then I fast forward, I'm here in California, and I was kind of bouncing around trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I met my partner, who, I mean, there's lots of other things that happened. Anyways, I moved to Hawaii for some time, came back, but I met my partner, and he lived 2 hours away. And it was like, well, how are we gonna date? Like, you're a farmer and I live in this, like, the city. How is this ever gonna work? So I was like, all right, well, let's move in together. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we'll find out quickly. And since that point in time, up until this year, because I've been full-time on this project, we have been on the farm and together pretty much 24/7 for 8 years. And so it
Wow.
worked.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's like a little bit of, and then we moved off grid and ran a farm, and
You're
have,
getting
moved
very
through many
choppy.
different
Hold
types
on.
of
Hold
farms.
on. You're getting a little choppy. You're getting a little staticky.
Starlink come back yet?
Starlink has now come back, I think. Thank you, Elon, but not thank you, Elon. All right, go ahead. Try it again.
Yeah. How are we? Good.
Good. Yeah, all right, so
Okay.
keep on. So
So
8
then,
years on a farm. Go for it.
sorry, I got 8 years on a farm, and then Starlink left
That
again.
was it. That's all I said.
That was it.
And go for
Yep.
it.
So 8 years, farming, and trying, growing our own food, living mostly off the land. And it's just helped me a lot too psychologically, detaching from the internet, detaching from social media and social perceptions of people, being influenced by what was happening in the outside world. And like, I don't need to know about all this stuff. Like, I live in this place, focusing in on healing myself and getting back in tune with the natural rhythms of life. And then we found Web3. And I tell you what,
Oh,
when we launched this project, I had no idea that we were going to find family, and I was going to find people I'd trust my life with, and that I would, you know, I just had no idea I would be glued to a phone. I didn't have TV for, I don't know, 6 years probably,
right.
and no real socials, and here I am.
That's amazing. So,
But I realized too that,
oh no, Starlink is just crushing us. We've lost her, folks. Oh, this was getting so good. This was getting so good, and we lost Mystik. You're very, very difficult.
Sorry about that.
Hold. Okay, try again.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now.
Sweet.
Okay, so before Web3, don't worry about muting at this point. You said a lot there, and it's all awesome. I think the one thing that I really want to concentrate on is healing. And because you said healing a lot, but healing's a massively broad term. And so I want to start from the beginning of healing and your journey for healing. What does healing mean to you? And it comes in so many forms, but I want your take on healing. And when did you think that healing journey truly started for you?
I think when I turned 16 and I lost my father, I think that's kind of when it started, but I was so inundated with the regular way of life that I didn't really pay too much attention to it, I had some little blips here and there, but then as I started to cleanse my body, it became easier to think. Brain fog went away. That I was like, oh, I'm smart. I don't have brain fog. What are you talking about? But then when it went away, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I can think differently, and my ability to process my emotions differently. And so healing to me is several layers. It's a mental layer, it's a physical layer, and it's a biological layer. And
how about spiritual?
And also spiritual, for sure. I think that it's kind of like an onion, and a lot of people have to start somewhere, and then whatever the outside layer is for different people, they can keep working their way into that center. But for me, it was physical and biological first, like cleansing my body out, gave my mental ability and my emotional ability to open up, which then gave my spiritual ability to find connection again. And yeah, I think that would probably be my best answer.
I think it's a beautiful answer. And so I have so many things to follow up on. I think one thing I want to check, because I think this is an interesting concept. I'm going to be hard pressed to find instances of healing or starting the healing journey that didn't start off with some form of trauma. Do you think that almost needs to happen to start some form of healing process, or can somebody just will themselves into wanting to heal? What are your thoughts there?
It's a really great question, and something that I actually tell people, because I do help people heal with different levels. Right now, it's mostly structural alignment stuff, and I think that And even with my dietary and kind of nutrition and herbalism background, that all came because I was sick, right? I had this trauma. I had something to heal from that was very obvious. Not everybody sees that they're sick. They can't tell. It's not like, I couldn't eat food without some sort of weird reaction. Didn't matter if it was water, whatever I ingested, there was a problem. And so it was in my face. Whereas, and I do think people can will themselves, but I do think it's a lot harder to do that. I think if you're pushed into it, it kind of is like one of those, one door opens, another, one door closes, another opens.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody else having to go and find that door to open is not impossible, but just, I do believe it's, in my experience, it's been much more difficult. Like somebody that comes to me for structural healing that is going through like a shoulder issue or a obvious trauma that's preventing them from doing their daily life is way more likely to stick to doing their exercises rather than somebody who just comes because they think it'll make them better at the sport they do, which is true. But it's just that, having that extra support, so to speak, to go that direction.
Yeah, and I love how you put it. I think this is a beautiful way that you put it. Was, and it sounds oxymoronic too, right? Having trauma makes it easier to heal, which makes no sense whatsoever, but it's so true, right? And I think it is because it forces, like my fall from grace was like overnight, and as horrific as it was, like I went through physical reactions. Like I went to bed one night, I woke up the next morning, and I was like, something is wrong. I feel like I can vomit across the room. My mind is not right. Like that's how hard I was hit, right? That does not happen for many people. And because of this extreme case, I was scrambling to find answers as quick as possible, right? And just as quickly as it came on, just as quickly as I felt like this is how I should have felt my whole life. It just switched that much. I don't know. We'll have to talk offline. We're gonna have to have some healing sessions together. We'll have to talk offline about it. But this concept, I think, I'm firm about. But I like what I was getting at is how you put it as trauma, as weird as it sounds, makes it easier. It is going to be harder if you don't have that, because you're going to have to be there's a lot more self-motivation there opposed to like primal reaction. I need to get better, right? Which is a really beautiful insight. Let's do this because I want to make sure we talk about Web3 and what you're doing. I think from the healing side and herbalism and all of these cool things that you've learned, for someone like me, that continually wants to get healthy. I know I probably eat too much processed food. I've stopped alcohol because alcohol is not good for anybody. But I'm interested in this kind of like getting my body to feel, like you said, more cleansed, healthier. Like I know I should be eating more organic food. I've definitely started to eat a lot more vegetables. What's your recommendation for me? I want to start exploring this more. Do I go through more the book route? Is it joining your community in Web3? Is it coming up to Humboldt and doing a retreat? I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
I would definitely say adding more fruits and vegetables and eliminating processed foods. I mean, tobacco, alcohol, processed sugar, refined sugar, caffeine. These things are all really addictive and hard to get off of. So the most you can move towards whole foods, the better. But then not beating yourself up when you do lapse, I think is a huge thing, because it just makes it harder for you to be successful.
Correct.
And actually, after so many years of doing diet and being super strict, I've gone anywhere from all meat, all raw meat, all vegan, no grains. Like I've tried just about every different diet and different way of being, and whole foods, I think, is just like if you can focus on that, don't worry about anything else, except for the most critical thing that I've found over the years now is the structural alignment. And so it's just like, you know, for those that know about cars or that know about tech, like if something is off in the engine or on the motherboard by tiny bit, like the whole thing may just not work, you know?
Right.
And so
Right.
just like our body, I can eat and juice and take supplements and drink water and do all of these things, but if I'm not aligned, my organs don't have the space to do what they need to do. My blood flow, I know everyone wants to sit up, on my blood flow
Yeah.
and, you
I
know,
need to do
oxygen
this.
flow and lymph and all these things don't move properly. And also, since being on the pickleball court and playing pickleball with an 85-year-old woman who's like running around like a freaking spider monkey, and then having my mother be, you know, older and struggling with some of her motion, when I ask them what their key to health is, every single one of them says staying active. And so I would encourage people to stay active and to learn about structural alignment, and not just like, oh, hold my chest back, or oh, sit up a certain way, go to the chiropractor, these other things where people or someone else is doing it for you.
Yeah.
You have to learn or be guided. That's what I do. I help guide people based on where their load joints are, into exercises that pull our muscles, hold our bones up. And so I help people guide their muscles into holding their bones into the right place, which then allows all the vessels, all the organs, and everything else to be in alignment so that whatever you're doing is just more productive.
Listen, I want to surf till I'm in my 90s. So I'm ready to structural align. We're going to talk about this offline because I love that. I actually went down the rabbit hole and YouTube got me a couple 3 or 4 nights ago, and it was about this lady who was like one of the world renowned foot doctors, and she was a ballerina, and she was saying kind of the similar thing. She's like, your feet are foundational to everything that you do. So like if your feet are off, it means that your alignment's off and your structure might be off, which is going to make your hip hurt. It's actually your feet and it's not your hip, or it's like these foundational parts of your body are actually making all of these other things in your body not work. So similar to what you're saying, fascinated by this. Amazing conversation. See, I told you all we had to do was start with a couple sentences. Look where we have come. We're already have been talking for almost an hour, which is insane because it seemed like 10 minutes. Let's do this. I want to give, we got over 100 people watching now. Retweet. We got a lot of people that are probably learning some new stuff for the first time. Beautiful conversation so far. Make sure everybody hears this. Before we get into Web3, which I'm really excited to talk about, any 1 or 2 things, and if not, it's okay, but like really big learning lessons for you, because you had a really cool journey about healing and herbalism and going off grid. Any thoughts of like failures and learning lessons and things that you are happy you went through throughout this part of your life and journey?
Yeah, I think the most important thing I learned, because at a young age, I thought, and especially being in the science world, it's like, there's a way, this is how it works, this and this, you know, A plus B is C. And understanding that we don't know much, and something that we know now in 10 years, we may learn to not be true. It's been proven time and time again over our, you know, course of human history. And so that's a really important one. Patience and grace. You know, I did a pretty strict diet to help myself heal the gut and psychology syndrome diet, and it's written by a neuroscientist who's cured people of autism, and I mean just crazy things. And it was really beneficial for me, but I was like, oh, 6 months of a diet, why am I not fixed? Well, I spent 21 years getting to this point. And so learning patience and grace, and that things take time, just like I can't expect to plant a seed today and eat tomorrow. It's going to take time. It's going to take care. It's going to take patience and grace and attention. I think those things are really really important. There was one other thing, I think, but that's what I got for now.
Listen, I agree with Big Man X. Thank you, you beautiful souls, for having this conversation. Thank you for that insight. I think people really need to hear that last part. Patience and grace. And the word grace is just a beautiful word. And if you don't know what grace actually means, go research it, please, because it's a magical word. And so understanding patience and grace, especially what is about to happen. I mean, honestly, Mystik, you're probably making the right move is trying to figure out how to live off grid sustainably, because AI is just gonna, God knows what's gonna happen with AI. It's not, it could end very bad. It could be the most beautiful thing that ever happens to humanity, but that's yet to be seen. But patience and grace, just what I was getting at with the technology and just how fast things move. We are such in this culture of now, now, now. And to your point, right? That's another beautiful statement. I got to this through 21 years of a lifestyle, and now all of a sudden in 6 months, I think things are going to be reversed. And I say this all the time too. Most founders, if you ask them what hard work over a long period of time is, defining a long period, 5 years minimum, 10 years more like it. That is dedication and work and hard work over a long period of time. People expect things in 6 months to a year here. And that's not the norm. That's not how life works.
They expect things overnight too.
Exactly. So
somebody said something. They said, I can work my whole life for overnight success. And that just really hit home,
100%. And it's the same thing as, like, we always make fun of let's say pop artists that are overnight successes and you never hear them again. Most of these people have been grinding for decades, right? No one is an overnight success, very rarely. Yes, the internet has had some fortunate people to do that, but it's not the majority. It's not the norm. So let's do this. Perfect. Ready to go. Let's get into Web3. I'll leave it up to you before we get to Quack Life, or Quack. Is it Quack Life? Am I saying Quack Life?
Yeah, it's cool. So the ticker's Quack. It's QUAKK, and then the NFTs are the Quack Pack collection, and then socials are the Quack Life. And so it's all under this Quack Life brand,
Everything's quacky, which is great.
It's all quacks, and we're quacks, and be your quacky self and quack out and get quacked.
I'm totally a quack. I'm excited to be. If you're not an eccentric or interesting person, I think you need to figure out how to be. Start being interesting and creative, because I think it's one of the keys to success in life. Not business, not money, but figuring out who the heck you are and what you want to do is critically important. So Web3, you get TLDR of how you found it if you want to. If not, we can go straight into Quack. Give me the elevator pitch. If I were to, 2 minutes or less, you try to describe to somebody that has no clue what you're doing. Understand that. But before, we can either go there, or you give me the TLDR of how you found Web3. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll start with a little bit how I found Web3. So my partner and I got into crypto in 2021, but that was just like, buy Bitcoin, buy Solana, buy some altcoins, do some research. We had been tipped off from somebody in the Philippines who was like his village master, but he was here farming, and he was like, Ripple's going to change the world. And he guided us kind of. He was like our guide, because he believed it was going to help his people and his village. And so we were like, okay, well, let's do it. And we dove in pretty headfirst. I wish we had full ported at Bitcoin at 16K. I mean, geez. But so fast forward a few years, and we, I've had this vision of the hub type space for over a decade now, but we were in Palm Springs this winter and had met somebody on the pickleball court that was involved in crypto and memes, and we got involved with him in real life at his house, launched a token with him, or watched him launch it, and watched what scammers do. And 3 days and we were like, whoa, like what the heck is going on here, you know?
Right.
And this just extraction and like people like, yeah, I made 40 Sol and all this stuff, and I'm like, but you just took that person's money and
Yeah.
you just told them not to sell it, and then you took it, and this is really weird, you know? And but we found all these people who were coming to this project like, wow, this art and all this cool stuff, and we were like, oh my gosh, you know, like this is just such a crazy space. And then like the Trump stuff happened and all this stuff, you know, the Argentina coin and everything was going down, and we were like, why can't we build better on the blockchain? You know, why can't we bring some of this vision that we've had in our little rural area to, you know, the big screen, so to speak? And why can't we support the system, support Solana, instead of just extract from it? Like, let's build utility around Solana. We need, like, I need to pump my Solana bag, you know, or pump my Bitcoin bag. Like, we need normies to come into this space. And so what can we do to help facilitate that, you know? And so it was just kind of it started as a way of like crowdfunding and a way to bring about this vision and build a community around this. And it has turned into just so much more. Like I said, I was pretty much a normie. I'm still kind of pretty much a normie, but I'm learning a lot. And yeah, just doing something better. Like I would see pictures of money and people and, you know, strippers and girls and all this fancy mansions, and I'm like, guys, like we can do better. Like there's enough, obviously there's enough room for all of us to be successful. And so that's where I was like, well, I guess it's time to do this thing that I've been putting off because my job requires me to take all my time to do it. So let's do the passion project. Let's actually try, you know, we have enough finances, I can take the year off, I can do this, and let's push our vision, you know, and really dedicate that time that we didn't do for many years because of, like I said, that I don't say 9 to 5, because for farming it's a lot longer. You get the winters off, but it's like 7 to 9 every day, you know? So there's no room for passion projects.
Right.
And you're beat up by the end of the year. You're not trying to do anything. You want to just, you know, Netflix and chill.
Netflix and chill. Yeah. I mean, I think people don't realize how hard it is to farm. I mean, that's a beast of a lifestyle. But you stay active. One thing you do, how do you live long? Stay active, like you said. Okay, so now let's roll into Quack. So beautiful intro into that. 2 minutes or less, in essence, an elevator pitch, but like not elevator pitchy. Just describe to me what Quack is.
Okay, so yeah, let's see, what do we got? 2 minutes. So we have a token and an NFT project on Solana, and the gist of it is building utility out for our community and our holders so that everybody who supports us is supported back. And so we have a vision of in real life hubs, which is like a fancy country club resort meets like a music and arts festival, where Quack is that umbrella, right? Where we hold space, just like a music festival, for different communities to come in and share what they're passionate with, whether it's music or animal sanctuaries or farm to table food or education, healing. We want to have adult playgrounds, you know, all these different zones, right? And have it all be based around sustainability and kind of offer a window into a different way of life, a different way of relating to each other, a different way of being successful, where network is your net worth and also your net health, and where we're just finding every way we can to all succeed together. And so whether we're bringing in different utilities through other revenue streams, you know, a lot of it is in real life crossover, a lot of it's education, bringing on normies into the space, and really just finding ways to share profits with everybody involved. So I may be the lead and I may be the face at this current moment, but it is our project. It is the collective and the community's project, and we will shape it as it grows, and we will bring to it our gifts to help make it happen.
I love it. And I think you did say in real life there, right? Too, because I've heard this similar pitch a while. I think yours is a little more nuanced in the fact that you added health and well-being into that pitch, right? Like we're all going to make it together and share, but you have health and wealth, which I think is a really cool twist, and I think is very important. How do you, because ultimately you need to organize these all, and you need to have a revenue stream. And we have seen how DAOs have usually played out, which is not too well, because too many cooks in the kitchen. And it just, we've understand. I mean, I think the math is out there. The studies have been proven time and time again. After you get like 50 humans together, all like trying to do things, all hell breaks loose, right? You're done after that. And so it's a beautiful concept, but a lot to organize, and you need an actual business model to make revenue. So what are the thoughts there?
Definitely. So that's why we haven't used the term DAO, because how it's actually going to play out may not be precisely how the traditional DAOs are. You know, it's like you look at successful businesses and they have a board, and they maybe have members that vote, right? Like at our co-op for our grocery store, they have a board of people that get elected that are supported by the community, and the community gets a vote, but that doesn't mean that that's what is exactly going to happen. They just take pieces of that into consideration. And so right now we have a team of, well, maybe we just actually brought on 2 new people, so we're now at 9. And it's like I put out polls and I ask them questions. I also ask some of our whale group, I ask them some questions. But in the end, it's going to be that really small core group that's going to make that deciding factor, and the majority rule is going to kind of take over on what finally happens, you know?
Yeah.
And so we haven't used that DAO term because of that issue. Too many cooks, more like a sacred corporation, a sustainable corporation, you know, with a board kind of acting under the influence of their people and really taking that into consideration.
Yeah, I love it. And so what have you proven out actual revenue streams? Do you have those going? If so, what are those? If not, what are your plans for the first couple?
For sure. So currently we have our NFTs. That's been going really great in my opinion during this kind of market time. Things are picking up, and so are our mints. And we are launching we started with a branded merch store, but we're launching customizable merch so that people can put their NFTs on different, about 10 different products. And I have some things in the works that I can't fully disclose yet, but there's a service and a product that's going to be coming online. And there's also some kind of Web3 based stuff that's coming online with some of the 2 new members that we brought in to help us kind of bring, you know, a lot of these things take time, right? Anything in real life business structure, permits, like a trademark, for example, that we applied for many months ago, takes 11 months to come through. And that's like 10 years in crypto. And so trying to also find some ways currently that we can offer that without this big, this long time necessity. So there are some things in the works for sure.
Awesome. And so Web3 as a whole, current state Web3, what are your thoughts on it? Do you feel like the future is bright? Are you frustrated? Are you excited about certain things? What are your thoughts? Current state? How are you feeling?
I wish there was a button I could press that would keep bad people away. um, I think that that
Same.
would be my frustration. I also, as I've been doing IRL outreach and trying to flip that narrative that crypto's all scams, people don't think about all the scam phone calls they get. They don't think about if they walked out into the street in the city and tried to start a business with anybody on the sidewalk, that like maybe 1% of them would actually be a good person to do that with.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of finding. I like to flip that kind of normal statement of a needle in a haystack to a piece of hay in a needle stack, and having to sift through some pokey things, and
Yeah.
keep going to find that. And so my frustration would just be mostly with people's mentalities and pinning the scams to only crypto without realizing the issues in real life with scams, or the
Mhm.
issues with the fiat system being
Mhm.
broken. And I'm like, look,
Mhm.
I can't say that crypto is perfect, but the fiat system is broken. And so
Yeah.
let's, at least there's all this beauty that can happen with crypto for people that aren't institutions, right? That don't have huge pockets. Like, it gives a stage for the little guys. And I think that's huge. And so I'm bullish on that. And the only concern I suppose I have, and this comes from being a farmer and, kind of being against a lot of governmental control, is that if everything is digital, it becomes harder to be free of potential government oversight. So
Correct.
that's my probably biggest fear of the future of crypto.
Yeah.
The fact that I can send money to somebody in another country instantly without conversion fees and all these things is just like, and that
It's
the
beautiful.
banks doesn't take a big slice, especially on Solana, right? I know some of the people have gas fees and such,
Right.
but it's amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, I think your frustrations are heard. Um, anything else that you want to talk about Quack or your community or community in general, as because my little man, he's going to start waking up here in the next like 10 minutes. So I got to start winding down. It's been a beautiful conversation, by the way. Just fantastic. What do you, anything there before we talk? I always ask my guest one final question. Softball. Don't start shaking. Don't start sweating because the AC isn't on or whatever we talked about in the beginning. Just kidding. Should we let her leave the AC on? This is a little behind the scenes for you all. We were concerned about the AC noise, and she was this committed. Mystik was this committed to sweat and turn the AC off so you could hear her beautiful voice. But I told her I'm not going to let her do that. But my question to you is, anything else about Quack before we go to the next, I'd say like 3 to 6 months and we start winding it down?
Yeah, two things. One, we have spaces every weeknight, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, different topics. We've got mindful wellness, we have collaborative mint parties, we have crypto TA on Solana and Bitcoin, we have featured projects and kind of open chill space, and then we have a music jam session on Friday nights. So 8 p.m. Eastern weeknights. And then I guess the call to action would be, we have a really epic mint bounty that just got released earlier this month, 180 SOL in that prize pool. And there's hundreds and hundreds of chances to win. And you also get to stake those NFTs for token. And there's going to be some added utility as we pretty much everything we expand with the project and the business is going to bring more utility to our token and our NFT project. So I would just, encourage people to mint. It supports us and the project directly. And yeah, I appreciate it, Mikey. This has been quacktastic. And
Oh, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Don't even worry about it. We're still going. We're not quite winding it down. So next 3 to 6 months, what in the Quack world are you excited about? Now, again, I know don't reveal things you can't reveal, but like in general, anything you can talk about that you're working on, or things in general about crypto and what Quack is doing that you're excited about.
Yeah, so I'm really jazzed about this education platform. I think that's going to be huge for switching, like I said, that narrative on crypto. Bringing more people in general is going to be better for everybody here. And then I think that, I would expect to see products on the shelves that are branded with our, imagery. I would expect to see experiences happening in real life type events, and really expanding also some services that we're going to be offering kind of centered around sustainability, and having that all be going back into the project, as well as the holders and the people that kind of invest in the business as a whole. So I do expect to see a lot of really happening forward progress, especially with some of the new people that we brought in and their experience with people like the SEC and more VC funding type initiatives.
Nice.
And I think that their technical and business mindset's going to really help us bring a lot of this vision and utility into reality and keep it all above board, so that we can continue to be in a more public space and really kind of continue to evolve this enterprise. It's essentially the Quack Enterprises.
I love it. Last question. You have now experienced an hour and 16 minutes, by the way. I thought it was a little shorter, but this is we're almost at our typical hour and a half mark of the MikeyG podcast for the first time. You've been part of the Web3 space. We talked about the Web3 space. How do you think today went compared to the typical things that you experience in the space?
I loved it because I actually got to have a real conversation with somebody. Oftentimes I go into these shill spaces or into, whatever, even if it's not a shill space, and they ask you about yourself, and it's like, okay, cool. All right, who's next? And it's like,
Right.
oh, geez, like I just gave my heart out or shared this thing I'm really passionate about, and to be received and to have somebody listen and pay attention instead of like, oh, I'm doing something else, and oh, sorry, what was that? What did you say? Oh, or like come back on and be like, oh, sorry, I was letting my dog out. I have no idea what you said. I asked you a question and I walked away.
Right.
And so I really appreciate and value that you pay attention, you find a piece of information to move off of. And I think that that's really a positive thing for the space, because that short attention span and that just like, oh, I just hold the space for people to talk and I don't really care what they say. I think it's really unique.
Thank you. And that's exactly what I'm trying to go for. And it gives me chills every time. I'm telling you, this is wild to me 100% of the time. I've hit 100% product market fit when it comes to what I want a founder to feel coming through this experience. If I could monetize just that 100%, I'd be a billionaire at this point. But you know what? I am a billionaire because, like we told you, we impacted lives today. There's no doubt in my mind. And I've told you, going into my closing, so I always say my closing comments, and then, we'll fade out and to the rest of the day. But you were so vulnerable today, and it means just the world. Like, you couldn't pay me enough money in the world to replace these just meaningful conversations. And that only happens if someone like you is on the other end, is just willing to share. And you did that today, and some very vulnerable stuff. So one, that's not lost on me. It means a ton to me. Human stories, I think, are just so fascinating. And having a simple conversation like this, some of the things that we were talking about is like when you get to the soul or the heart of everybody bleeding red blood, or these principles are all common between people. It's the same things with stories and creative. Like, we live in this world where everything needs to be like so overly produced, and you're constantly putting in flashy text and all of this crap, when I think it can just be what we just did. And I think that's more impactful than 90% of the stuff out there. But again, it only can be impactful if you are open and sharing things that stood out to me about your story. I am so motivated to talk to you and start joining your spaces when I can. Unfortunately, they're not at the greatest time for me. Well, 8 p.m. PST or EST?
EST.
Yeah, horrific time. If it was 8 p.m. PST, that would be awesome. But when I can, but really the healing part. I think not enough people talk about this, but what here was cool about your healing is you talked about many variations of healing, but then you also came from a perspective of compassion and understanding that like you weren't like salesy about it or saying that like you like this is the way. I think where you came to like a beautiful insight was like I've done it all, and I'm gonna be pretty clear, like, you know, just don't do the bad stuff. Don't beat yourself up if you don't do it hardcore. And Whole Foods makes a lot of sense. I also thought the insight while we were talking about that too, of you saying that we don't know a lot. Humans really like to convince themselves we know a ton. And I came to this realization too. And it was cool because a lot of things that you said are totally things I believe. I just got there in a very different way. And I say that a lot on this podcast is like, we don't talk about, like every podcast, we talk about the same thing: walking through the flames, taking risks, dealing with trauma, all, you know, growing, working long, you know, sustainable, long period time, working hard. But it comes from such a different angle. I'm just fascinated how people get there. And so I came to a lot of your same conclusions too. The whole walking through the flame thing and how do you start that healing process was fascinating and really amazing to me too. And I'm excited to cut this up so people can start hearing like just the different parts of Web3. We're so overwhelmed with the quick flip and somebody yet making another IP or another game, and you're actually trying to create community driven change through healing and education and sustainability, like all of these more interesting things that I think Web3 doesn't get exposed to enough, even though people like yourself are doing it. And the final thing I'll just say is thank you for being you, because it was a beautiful conversation and it could not have been beautiful without you at the other end. So thank you so much for your time. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And with that being said, MikeyG and Mystik are out.
Thanks, y'all.